Welcome to Flat Ride of the Week, Episode 10. For the 10th episode, we'll be discussing some of the most overlooked yet common flat rides out there, Zamperla kiddie rides. This episode will be a bit different in that it will mostly be about my experience working a lot of these rides, as well as the occasional hard facts, and of course, rides that I haven't worked will just be hard facts. If you've worked some of these rides or know something that we did not mention, feel free to mention it in the comment section below. Let's get started. So, starting with the history, Zamperla's kiddie rides date back to 1969 when they created the first bumper cars for children, as they advertised. There may have been some before it. In 1975, they began production of the first mini Avio, which was the predecessor to the controllable height junior rocket ships or junior airplanes, now called the mini jet model, which is very common at parks today. In 1989, Zamperla expanded their collection of junior rides, thanks to them winning a contract with Disney to help build the rides for the new Euro Disneyland project. This project would cause Zamperla to completely overhaul their company, including their quality standards, just everything so that they could meet Disney standards. This led to the variety of cloned flat rides that we see today and that we are about to cover. Again, with a lot of these, there's so many of them, it's not exactly clear when they debuted. Also, I'm going to be pretty negative about some of these rides just because they're not the greatest to operate. But before we get any further, I would like to say that Zamperla as a company, love them. They're a great company. Them standing up to Golden Horse, really bold mood. I think they're a great company. However, some of these rides are just plain bad. Alright, so buckle up. We have a lot to go over. So, the first ride we're going to start with is, of course, the mini bumper cars. This is the original Zamperla kiddie ride, debuting in 1969 and still sold today. I believe Cedar Point's is a Zamperla, as it opened in 1970, but it could have also been a Reverchon. It got new cars in 2005, and I was trained at this one, but I never actually worked it. It was just kind of there. I don't really have much more to say about that one. Then moving on, we have the Mini Jet, which comes with ride vehicles that are completely themed to whatever the park wants. So it's not only the older airplane style that seems to be popular, but it can come in anything. Cedar Point has two. I operated both. The one is the Red Baron in the back of the park is airplane themed, and the one in the front is rocket ship themed that came from Geauga Lake. It comes in both transportable and permanent version. The Rider, which is only kids, has control with it's actually controlled by compressed air. And I mentioned that it was only for kids. That appears to only be for the US anyway. Zamperla actually puts no maximum height limit. However, I'd have no idea how this thing could lift an adult. At least the ones at Cedar Point, this thing's like, it was always out of compressed air. It was just one of the least fun rides to work. In general, it was pretty bad. Because you have the seat belts that Cedar Point loves that are the kid-proof ones, so you have to go around and unlock them, and that's true for all of these rides. So you have to go around and unlock them every cycle and lock them, and then if you get a group of 2 that wants to ride, okay, they're good, you get them off, and now suddenly there's a group of 10, you have to go and unlock all those seat belts for them, and then go around and recheck, so it's just a huge pain. Yeah, so that was the mini jets. I tried to avoid them. They actually have a setting on the control panel for all of them that's all up. That's very interesting because operator, it's on all of them to my knowledge. Operator flicks the spring switch to one side and it sends all of the gondolas up, which is interesting and well, I won't tell that one. So moving on, we have the Convoy. Like most Zamperla kiddie rides, ride vehicles can be made per the park's request. It is in a permanent version only. It can be modified. This is actually interesting so that it can run essentially 2 trains, and that requires 2 operators. But the way it works is, say you have 6 ride vehicles, it will send out 3 in a group, and then 3 will be in the station loading. So essentially, the way you essentially made 2 trains, one traversing the layout and one being loaded, which is really good for capacity. Not many run like that. I think Great Adventure still runs theirs like it, but I don't know of any others that do. And the ride actually uses photo eyes on the front of each car or truck or whatever they're themed to keep the vehicles from bumping, which actually, because they're photo eyes, means that the ride actually closes in any kind of rain. The track itself is powered. No rider has any control of where the vehicle goes. Zamperla themselves advertises it can do 1 adult and 3 kids, which is really bad for operation because, you know, you have a family of 4, 2 adults, 2 kids. Well, now you got dad back here in in his own truck, and mom and the kids up in one, and it's just so many family issues can spring up out of that. So it's not the greatest.
Then we have the Happy Swing and the Super Happy Swing. The Super Happy Swing is simply a larger version of the Happy Swing. It fits 16 riders per cycle, up to 4 adults, and it's permanent or transportable. Then we have the Mini Ferris Wheel. It has 6 gondolas, each fitting 1 adult and 2 children, and it's only permanent, completely themable to whatever the park requests.
Moving on, we have the Speedway, which is essentially a mini version of the old-fashioned whip ride, very popular in the U.S. Permanent or transportable, comes in 6 and 8 car models. Now this ride I kind of had a love-hate relationship with. I didn't like it, I didn't hate it. It was actually the last ride I operated in Camp Snoopy after a very rainy Saturday. If you know about the last Saturday of the season, at Cedar Point, it was absolutely terrible. Rain all day. And I was there for like 8 minutes at the end of the day, so I was just kind of messing around. There were no riders. No one was in the park at this point, even though there's still 2 or 3 hours before we closed. And yeah, I was just messing around with it, and like it has so many light controls and everything. So like the lights, you could I was turning on and off the Speedway sign and all sorts of stuff. It was kind of cool. And then actually this ride, for whatever reason, maintenance has to go underneath it pretty frequently. So it actually is one of the few kiddie rides where you have a horn that you need to depress before you open it in the morning, because you want to make sure there's no maintenance people down there yeah, that'd be pretty bad if they were down there when the ride started. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say for that one. It was an interesting ride. It wasn't the worst to operate. Problem with it is the floor got really slippery, so you had to be kind of careful if it was rainy.
Then we have the Flying Tigers, which is essentially a suspended version of the Speedway. 1 adult and 2 kids per ride, and it's permanent or transportable.
And then moving on, we have the Rio Grande train, which, according to Zamperla, is the best-selling electric train ride in the world. It comes in a number of pre-made layouts, or Zamperla can make a custom layout. It must stay at ground level, no inclines or anything like that. Permanent or transportable, by the way. That's just kind of interesting. Trains can be customized per the park's requirements. And adults can only ride in the outside cars, so they're cars without a roof. Kids can obviously ride in the ones that are covered. And these things, they're in almost every park, they're in really bad shape. They're really worn down. All of Planet Snoopy at Cedar Point, and I operated all of our Zamperla kiddie rides. All the ones in Planet Snoopy are from, except for the Dodgems, are from Geauga Lake or Six Flags Worlds of Adventure, and it shows in how the rides are. Rio Grande Train was called Snoopy's Express Railroad at Cedar Point. It was also called Roadrunner Railway at Geauga Lake. So I actually answered the phone once as Roadrunner Railway because I was reading the manufacturer plate on the bottom of it, which still said Roadrunner Railway when the phone rang. So yeah, that was a little awkward. And they're very interesting because a lot of parks have them in bad states of disrepair. The one at Six Flags Darien Lake runs with only the front train and 1 car, because the rest, according to Sam, have just been, they didn't bother repairing them because it's such a minor ride. Interestingly, these rides were actually, they had quite a bit of operator control, because you put your foot on the foot pedal, you press the ride start, and it goes, and it keeps going until you lift your foot off the pedal. So when you actually wanted to stop it, you actually had to kind of park it. You would okay, it's gotten to this point, I can lift my foot off and it'll coast to a stop. If you let it go too far, well, then you got to send it around again. And if you stopped it too short, you would press the ride start again with your foot on the pedal, and it would jolt forward a bit, and you let go immediately, and it parks. So it was actually kind of a fun one. At the same time, it was kind of annoying and low capacity because, okay, you got a family, well, they can't ride. They have to wait till the next cycle, even though there's 3 open cars, because of how stupidly it was designed. It's annoying.
Then we have the Jump Around, one of Zamperla's newer kiddie rides. The ride experience is like the mini jet, except the riders have no control and the gondolas do not extend as high. Apparently it can provide some airtime. Unlike many other kiddie rides, adults can ride this one too.
And then we have the very famous Jumping Star, which is 7.5 meters or 25 feet tall. 6 kids only per ride, no adults. Both permanent and transportable. Some of the most popular rides in the world and very fun to work and to ride. I loved these things. Cedar Point has 2. The one in camp is actually an SNS, so it's not really covered in this video. I found it cute though in the manual. It describes it as a 25-foot mini power tower. It's kind of cool. But the one in Planet was a Zamperla, and after operating both, the Zamperla one is better. It has a way more intense cycle, and the restraints are better, in my opinion. It was a very fun ride to work because it was pretty high capacity, just in the sense that you can really get people on and off really quick. It was a blast, and the kids bounced up and down, are having the time of their lives, getting like crazy airtime too. Like it's just a good ride. It was a good ride to be around, a good ride to work.
Then the Jumping Tower 16, which is basically a scaled up jumping star. Now with riders on all 4 sides of the tower. It is 14.5 meters tall or 48 feet. It's permanent and transportable, and kids and adults can ride, unlike the Jumping Star where only kids can.
Then moving on, we have the Zamperla Crazy Bus, one of the most popular rides of all time, with over 200 installed worldwide according to Zamperla. It is transportable and permanent. Now, these rides are very cool. I'm very fond of these. They're very well built. They're like some of the most robust Zamperla rides out there. I didn't actually think it was a Zamperla at first until I looked at the manual. Yeah, these things, Cedar Point has 2. They installed one in 1999 at Camp Snoopy, and then a second one came from Geauga Lake, which was installed there in 2000, and came to the park in 2008, along with the rest of Planet Snoopy. And I operated both. The one in the back of the park, it's very interesting. You can tell the sort of philosophies of Six Flags and Cedar Fair at the time, and how much they trust their operators too. Because all of the Cedar Point ones tend to have maintenance functions just on the main panel. Like you could access them no problem as a normal operator, whereas the Six Flags ones have them hidden. And so the Crazy Bus in the back of the park, the Cedar Fair one, its cycle is really simple. It just goes around a few times and it's done. Also, another thing with it is the doors are just a simple lock that you, like, if you were a really determined kid, you could unlock it from the inside. Of course, you still have the lap bar, but that doesn't do a whole lot unless you're a larger person. And so, yeah, that was the one in the back of the park. A lot more trusting of the guests and the associates on that one. Then the one in the front of the park in Planet Snoopy came from Six Flags, and it shows. It's, again, all the maintenance functions are hidden. Another thing with all the ones in Planet that was really annoying is there was no separate switches for the gates. So in camp, you have a switch for the entrance gate and a switch for the exit gate. So you have to let someone in, let someone off, whatever. You just switch that and you recheck a single gate. In Planet, you had to recheck both gates, which was really annoying. But onto the ride itself, because that went for all of the rides in both areas. The one in Planet has a actual key to unlock the doors, and the one in camp does not, as I just explained earlier. And the problem with that is if the operator is swinging it around because he's bored, he can drop it. And I did drop it, and I luckily did not drop it underneath the ride. But I've heard stories of other ride operators and other ride installations where that has happened, and they've dropped it under the ride. Now you've got a bunch of people stuck in the ride, and you look like an idiot. These rides are pretty cool, and actually they're really good to operate. I really enjoyed them because they're quite high capacity. There's just one restraint release at the back, unlocks all the restraints for the whole thing. Another thing with the Six Flags one is the cycle is different, and I'm sure they could reprogram it, but why bother? And so the one in Planet, you'll notice, goes forwards a couple times and then actually stops at the top, which is always fun. Everyone thought, oh, I'm stuck, it's broken. And then it goes backwards for a few rounds, and then it's over. So yeah, longer cycle, lower capacity. It was 6 flags at the time, and still today, really. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say about the Crazy Bus.
Then the Barnyard. It fits 24 people and it spins around at an angle. They're not common in the US, but a lot of them got built here in Europe. It is available as both transportable and permanent version.
Alright, and then moving on, we have the Zamperla Lolly Swing. Oh my god, I have a lot to say about this one. Mini version of a wave swinger. It's got 16 swings with 2 riders per swing, permanent only, and interestingly, the swings actually coast in that they have a track of their own at the top of the ride that allows these swings to swing outwards without any like mechanical pressure on chains and anything. So it's good for reliability. But these rides, I hate. This was probably my least favorite ride to operate. It's called Charlie Brown's Wind-Up in Camp Snoopy. Oh, so bad, so bad. For the biggest problem with this is probably the seat belts, because they're the kid-safe ones, so you have to go around and unlock them. So say you're opening the ride, all the seat belts are locked like normal, and you get a group of 2 to come ride. Okay, you get them on, you unlock their seat belts, you get them on, you check all the seats, all of them, all 16 cars, and you check your gates first, forgot to mention that, and then start the ride. They go around, okay. Get them off. Okay, they're off, you have 2 seat belts unlocked. And now here comes a group of 10. So now you have to go around and either before you let them on, go and unlock 8 extra seats, or just let them in and let them be panicked standing by their car while they're locked out and waiting for you to come around and let them in, while they probably, if there's an adult, trying to set their kids in when it's unsafe and it's swinging around the place. It's causing so many problems. And so you finally get those people loaded in, and you close the gates, you go check both gates, you check all their seats, you check all the empty seats, and then you start the ride. It goes around, and then you go around, open the gates, let them out, and now suddenly you have another group of 2, and now you have to start the whole process over again. So it was just a huge waste of time. I remember, like, most of the rides, I loved getting capacity, especially at the end of the year. I loved capacity. I learned to love capacity. This ride, I hated. I would be lucky if I got 7 cycles an hour. And that's with a line. 7 cycles an hour. That's just so bad. So darn bad. Like, oh my gosh. It was bad. It was just awful, awful ride. Anyway.
Then we have the Fire Brigade. While standing in a cage, riders move up and down while extinguishing fires, while the whole structure spins slowly. It's available as both transportable and permanent version.
And then we have the Zamperla Samba Balloon, which is a combination of the mini teacups and a wave swinger. So this one is permanent only. Ride goes up to 5.5 meters or 18 feet, and then it tilts side to side while rotating. Riders have a wheel in the middle to control their spinning. This one wasn't bad. A lot of people hated it. I didn't. You could fit a lot of people in it. The problem was it was just like the lolly swing in that you have a lot of seatbelts to unbuckle and rebuckle, and people like to get out early or get in early before you unlocked it for them. It was not the greatest, but it was a high capacity ride, and it was fun-ish to work. I didn't hate these. The Cedar Point has 2, one in Planet and one in Camp. They're exactly the same. Exactly the same.
Then the Demolition Derby. It has 6 free spinning gondolas that traverse a figure-8 layout made of 2 rotating plates. It's only available as park version, and like most of the other Zamperla Kiddie rides, it can be themed to whatever the park wants.
And then we have the Midi Teacup, and actually quite a story with this one. It's a mini version of the classic Teacups ride. Riders are seated in gondolas that are free spinning, except for when the operator applies the brakes. That's supposed to be for loading and unloading, but if you want to like get some people a little extra spin, you can quickly turn them on and off. Gotta throw people off a bit. Riders can get a really good spin going if they push or pull on that wheel. And this ride, it was my favorite one to get stuck at in Planet. because I didn't want to be in Planet, but I served my sentence there. And this one was fun. It was actually the ride I closed for the season. So it's a little bit of a personal touch there. It was okay. You could fit. It was a lot like the balloons, but a lot more stable. And riders tend to get more spinning. It was more fun. It was also a Geauga Lake ride, and so it's kind of cool on all of the Planet rides. If you ever are in Cedar Point, I recommend looking at the control panel, like the basic control panel. I'll put up a picture here of one I took. It actually says the original ride name when Zamperla installed it, so it's like Tasmanian Devil or something like that on Woodstock's Whirlybirds. So it's kind of cool. There's a Zamperla. These rides have a lot of history. Yeah, it was kind of a fun ride to operate because you could smell the Auntie Anne's pretzels from when you were operating it, so it was kind of nice. Got a good. It made you very hungry when you were operating it. But yeah, I closed it for the season, and I kind of like it. It wasn't the worst.
Then the Rockin' Tug. It is a boat that fits 24 people. It swings back and forth while spinning. It's available as both park and transportable version, and almost every major park has one like this. It's super popular. Actually, the Rockin' Tug was awarded the best new family ride at the 2002 IAPA convention, and it's actually one of the best-selling rides that Zamperla ever made. So that's interesting.
All right, and now for a few that I've never operated, but I will cover. We've got the Zamperla Kite Flyer, which is basically a Samba balloon, except you replace the balloons with Volair trains. It was very popular in the early 2000s, but it doesn't seem to be as popular anymore. It gives the feeling of flying. It was like the first flying ride I ever did. I did the one at Kings Island because it looked cool. And you know what? Of all of them, it's one of the better Zamperla Kids rides. And then the final one, I know we finally made it to the end of this list. If you're still here, make a comment below because you made it through this together. This is the aerial ride, which is a monorail, essentially, but with single 4 passengers, 2 kids, 2 adults, ride vehicles. It can be made and themed per the park's request. It's very popular as a headlining attraction in many kids areas. And this is one of the few rides that I actually remember before I knew about rides, which is kind of cool to think about all these. Like, you gotta imagine the number of people that have memories riding these things. Zamperla, again, they've done a good thing here, but yeah, I remember at I think it was probably, could have still been PKI, but I remember going over Scooby-Doo and seeing Scooby-Doo walking around on the ground while I was up on the helicopters at Kings Island. Maybe Paramount's, maybe Cedar Fair. Either way, it was a great experience for a kid. But yeah, that is about it for all of these Zamperla rides. If you've made it this far, congratulations, you've soldiered through it. If you ever operated one of these, God help you. And let me know in the comments below. If you have any experiences with these or know something we didn't mention, feel free to let us know in the comments below. These rides probably hold a special place in a lot of riders' hearts, and a special place of hatred in a lot of operators' hearts. Yeah, I think that about ends it. I know your answer, but do you have anything else to add?
No.
Alright, well, thanks for watching this episode of Flat Ride of the Week, and we'll see you for episode 11 next week.